Hey there, Ian here, and we're talking about productivity today. Productivity may not seem that interesting at first glance, but if you view it as underpinning everything that you do, getting the job done underpins the strategy side, marketing side, client acquisition, and also how you make profit, how you keep that revenue generated from the strategy side, and how you build your cash. Productivity underlies everything that you do. So when you look at it that way, maybe it's worth taking a look at your ability to produce. Here are some ideas that have come up in recent conversations. Stay tuned. Hello there, Ian here, and it's a pleasure to be able to be with you. We've come back from a trip to the UK, spent some time with family and friends there, and great to be back in the saddle and sharing with you. So, productivity. It's come up quite a few times in recent conversations. So I thought, let's share some ideas here. So, one of the themes that have come up quite often is the idea or the relationship between competence and culture. Competence, of course, is the skills and the abilities of the players that you have, and the culture is what binds them together, how they play and interact with each other. Quick side note, there's a bit of background noise here, but I really wanted to get the idea out to you, so I hope that it doesn't detract too much from the audio. Back to culture and competence. So these two things are obviously necessary, but I thought it'd be interesting to look at maybe the interplay between them. So I drew a diagram, as I enjoy doing, and we can look at it on these axes here. So let's look at competency. Competence is on the horizontal axis, high competency towards the right hand side of the diagram, low towards the left, and culture, high at the top, low at the bottom. Now, obviously, where we want to be is at the top right hand side. So if you look at this, I've called that the advance quadrant. So we've got high culture, we've got high competency, we've got very, very skilled people, and they are interacting well with each other. They're helping each other, and it's a great place to work. This is where you want to stay, and that's where you're going to advance fastest. But what about the other three quadrants in the model? Well, in the upper left hand quadrant, you've got high culture. You've got a very strong, well-developed culture, but maybe competence is lacking a bit. Now, that is, in my view, the second best place to be, because it's harder, in my view, to build culture than it is to build competence. Both are difficult, but if you have the right culture, the chances are people want to advance, they want to support each other, and they are interested in the bigger picture rather than just themselves. So in that case, we aspire to be in the advanced quadrant, and it's a matter of, to get there, it's a matter of building our own skills. We can either do that internally through training and development, or we can hire in the competencies that we need. Mind you, be very, very careful that when we hire externally, we have to hire a match for our values and our culture just as much as we have to hire the skills, because hiring the wrong person that's not a good cultural fit can quite easily disrupt the culture. So the two choices there, we have build internally or hire from externally. The next best one, of course, is where we've got a high competency but low culture, and I've called this the anxiety quadrant. If you have highly skilled people in a poor culture, they can become very anxious. They don't really know what's going on, what the future holds. Is that person talking badly about me? Am I going to get advancement? How are we going to progress as a team and as a company? So this can be quite anxious, even though you have highly skilled people that are working for you. So this is a harder position to be in my estimation, because the key thing there is to start building your culture, and that can take time. What are our values? How do we interact with each other? And what are the behaviors that we really want to observe that are based on those values? And how do we enforce them and reward our players in line with those values and in getting the job done? That's a little bit harder than building competence in my view, but it can be done. So I call that the anxiety or the anxious quadrant. So what about the last one? Of course, this is not where you want to be, and I've said that's the adapt or abort quadrant. You're facing going over the cliff. You're at the waterfall and you're facing that drop. It's going to unravel sooner or later, and you've got a hard choice to make. You can either adapt. You can start now looking at the culture that you've got and the skills that you have. But if you have neither, immediate action is required. Or you say, look, okay, this experiment in its present state has failed. With respect to everybody that's part of this team, we have to dissolve this team now and start afresh. It's pretty much one of those two. Again, these can be done, but this is where you definitely don't want to be. So what do we do? What are the action steps? Well, first of all, like everything else, you start looking at your results. You look at where you are now. You take a very, very clear look at the results that you're getting. What are our customers saying to us? What are our employees saying to us? What is our financial performance? How are we doing as a company? Take a very good look at that and then backtrack and say, right, is it because of if the results are fantastic, we've got great culture, great competence, then carry on doing what you're doing and build on that. If they're not quite where you want to be, then look at, is it a competence issue? Do we have the right skills, but we're just not interacting with each other? Is information flowing seamlessly between us? Are we protecting our backs? Are we siloed? Are things getting missed? Probably that's a cultural issue. Are we not up to the task? Is there competencies that we have to build that we're not skilled enough to execute on to deliver what our customers want? That's a competency issue. So the first thing is results, and then backtrack and say, is it culture or competence? If you lack both, then of course you've got to start executing that pretty much straight away. So I really hope that helped. I hope that gave you an idea for where you might be on your journey into the future. Do we have to build our competence, or is it our culture that needs a bit of extra work? I really hope that makes sense. I hope it gave you ideas, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon. And until I do, take care of each other.